Welcome to Behavior Code. I'm your host, Yogi Chris, PhD, founder of Ninth Limb Yoga. I was talking with my fellow monk here, Fernando, earlier about behavior code. It's a genetic code, the behavior of the genetic code, and the genetic code being uh, propagated through male-female dynamics. It's how men and women relate that, reproduce the genes better than the previous generation. So, um, I'm here with my guest, Chris Cruz from Los Angeles. He's a spiritual guy and he's a realtor. So I like to call him Spiritual Realtor. And he's been here to the base one. He's got his monk beads. He did residency, he did beast camp, and he's done many things before that. And he's got a lot of really interesting interests. And I'd love to get his perspective. He also has the very coveted mentorship book of notes, a very powerful, magical book. Only two people in the world have it besides me. And so maybe we'll get his take on that too. So what's up with you, Chris? I know you just came from a deal. If you want to get right into what you're talking about with the code on the relationships, or just whatever you take it away, man, whatever you want.
Yeah, definitely. So I came back from pretty much dealing with a client where, the wife is this decision maker in the sales process that we're currently in right now. And it just made me realize, how, we're born into the society and then we don't even get to choose our relationships, right? They're already decided for us, right? They already say, hey, you got to get married, you have to get engaged. So that's like the social norm they put on you, right? I call it a chain, right? It reminds me a lot of when you grow up and they tell you, hey, you know what? You got to go to school, you got to get a degree, then you got to get a job, you got to then work your ass off and retire and then die, right? That's what it reminds me a lot of, because that's also a chain. And I'm like, man, we don't have a choice because I don't know if you ever seen the meme where there's like a little robot and they put him it's kind of like it says like work, school, religion, and he's just going through it's like a factory, right? And then there's one guy running away. Yeah, you seen that? Yeah, yeah, that's a powerful image, man. But that's how I feel that's the world we live in, and I think it's actually really real.
For sure, man. So these chains that we're unconscious of, and we need to get conscious of, and then break the habit. And time and time again, I see the problems that come into relationships are just age-old truths about leading. Let's say lead your girl, lead your woman, and anytime that a problem happens is because you didn't know how to lead or you misled, or just little things like with the client. Is there, I just mentioned the sales code. Do you see how there is a code for selling that's different than the code for relationships, or is it the same? Or what do you think about that?
Code for selling, a code for relationships. Well, to me, for example, in a relationship, I would see it as I'm playing I'm tapping into the code of a man, right?
Yeah.
But in the sales process, I have to be a chameleon almost. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. What do you mean?
That's how I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you mean? Be a chameleon?
For example, I have to see what's in front of me and then I have to adapt to it. Because if I try to, for example, I want to say for example, in this scenario right here with my clients, it's a guy and a girl. I mean, I have to lead them. That's how I see it. I lead them.
Right.
So I will lead them to make a decision. But at the same time, I have to see, how I'm going to navigate myself around who is the decision maker. Make sure I don't disrespect their relationship, right? Because, for example, let's say I'm just going to go talk to one person and focus on my attention on them, right? Or ignore the other person completely. So I have to kind of see how I'm going to do it so that they can benefit off of what's happening pretty much.
Yeah. I don't do realty, but let's say I would sell my business to yoga studios, and sometimes there'd be male, female, some pair bonded couple that owned the yoga studio. Maybe they were married or not. And maybe the dynamic most of the time was she was masculine, and just seeing it kind of like that is just treating her as a man almost. But it makes things more complicated because you still can't violate her as a woman, even though you treat her as a man. There are some things you would do with men that would violate her as a woman. And so it really narrows the behavior code, the code of behavior that's permissible in that situation. Fake black belt is on. Everybody, we got a wager going about who's gonna. Yeah. Everybody here knows this guy. We're making you even more famous. Fake black belts. Anyway.
Fake black belts.
Fake black belts. Yeah, he thinks Biden won still, and so we made a bet that if Biden won, I would post Biden on my Instagram. But when Trump wins, then he's going to bring me live on his 42K Instagram and split screen with me. Let me 15 minutes. Let me talk to his very Trump hating audience. The Trump is racist audience kind of. Anyway,
man, dude, I swear to you, brother, sometimes I wonder like if we're living on the same planet, just because I see a lot of the stuff that you shared, and I'm like, man, like that's so true. But then you see the other side, and it's like are they like not in the same world? Like how could they not see it? You know what I mean? Like for example, I was watching TV earlier with my mom, and then she had on the news where it was saying like, oh, like all these COVID cases and the vaccines are coming out and this and that. And I was like, these motherfuckers are so full of shit, because for one, they really don't care about people's health. Like obviously we know that, but it's like it's right in front of your face. If they did, why aren't they coming out with all the cures that they have? You know what I mean? Yeah. Why aren't they really actually providing like for example, like I don't know, some type of incentive for people to get actually healthy? Maybe share like, taboo knowledge on how to heal your body. You know what I mean? But it's like it's right in front of your face that they don't care about, people's health, but yet they want to make it seem like they do. But it's like, you know what I mean? Some people are convinced, oh yeah, we have to be safe.
I mean, it's demonstrated with the masks right away, just saying it is, and then it isn't, then it is, and it isn't, then whatever. Demonstrated by the CDC misreporting the COVID deaths and then misreporting it again. And then, I mean, it's just a bunch of nonsense for sure. But everyone in Trump's cases are getting thrown out the window. It's all happening as it's supposed to be happening. And it's going to be like the world's greatest seduction. It's going to pull as many people in as possible to look and examine for themselves why would such absurdity be allowed to go on. And so when people look for themselves and they look places not where the mass media is putting it in front of you, then you just start finding all these discrepancies. And if you have any research bone in your little body, then you're going to just like follow the rabbit trail, follow the white rabbit. There it is. That's the saying. Okay, Mr. motherfucking Chris Cruz. So you changed your name on Instagram when you started doing these beast camps from Chris of the Mind Cruz to motherfucking Chris Cruz, MF Chris Cruz.
Yeah.
What motivated that?
I would say it's just, and I think AZD talks about this all the time. He pretty much talks about building your character, right? So I think this is just the character that I built pretty much. You know what I mean? Motherfucking Chris Cruz. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah. And I talked to him in the kitchen when I was at the house, and I remember he told me this thing that was so powerful, man, because I've been following him for a long time, and I've seen his transformation. And I asked him, I was like, man, like I remember like you were so different, man. And then like standing right in front of you, like I don't even recognize the other person. And he told me something, I forget what he said, but he said something like, oh yeah, like I destroyed that guy. Like he doesn't even exist.
Right on.
Focus so much on that new character that he built. But that in my mind, like it like expanded my consciousness, my awareness to how, what that is and what that looks like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially since, there's survival and replication going on. And if I was a salesman, I might refine my character. I want to say the word is exorbitantly, but it would be very skill based. And with the replication game, the game between men and women, I feel much more inclined towards creativity, peacocking basically, in a way. And peacocking in all areas of like my personality and language and tonality and demeanor and everything like should stand out. So that level of, like you're saying, creation and leaving the old shell behind like a snakeskin is full on commitment and just absolute certainty and logical. It's got to like make sense. That's the character that, I'm choosing a character not to run away from that character because that one is better. And the Beast Camp this last weekend was really good on that, but that's dope. Let's see. If anybody's in the audience, you got anything you want to say at any time, because we're going to wrap it up. It's not going to be too long of a show. but motherfucking Chris Cruz. What have you noticed? Any changes lately, like shifting due to the knowledge? For me, the knowledge was very blossomed later, a lot of times. So anything like that going on with you?
Like what in specific would you say?
Well, like in your communicating, uploads or leveling up as you're communicating with your leads or following up with people or even revisiting family, or even just looking at yourself in the mirror one day and noticing that you've changed.
Yeah, that's mainly the one, man. Just looking at myself in the mirror and noticing just like everything, bro. Like everything's changed, honestly. And that's why I think like it's very powerful, like AZD's teachings, because one thing I've always known is that there's so many chains, man, that society will put on us. Like there's like for example, there's a religion chain, right? There's a financial chain. There's a chain on finding out who we really are. You know what I mean? There's so many chains that I feel that they put us in just to pretty much mold us into who they want us to be, right? And then AZD, I feel like he's a big piece of the puzzle. That because I was like studying all these kinds of things, that everything made sense together. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
I understand a lot of what he says because I was like dabbling and studying other things like on the mind or like hypnosis or NLP. You know what I mean? Things like that. And then when he would bring them up, I'd be like, oh, I've learned about that. And then he would bring it up at a different level where I've never heard, and just tapping into his own perspective, it would really just make like all these crazy changes. And
Right on. I cut out there for a quick second, but it made all these changes in you, and because it's all coherent and it's integrated because he's a practical application of that information versus just like theorizing in some book and going off, just mentally decomposing and recomposing concepts and just like playing with it. It's actually applied neurolinguistic programming, applied hypnosis, and applied in a sense of it improves survival and replication, meaning his replication improves because he's multiple beautiful girlfriends. Their survival improves because the family unit and the tribe is very strong. And with that becomes a fuel source for the tribe, you could say, or a beacon, you could say, attracting only the strongest men because the most beautiful men need stronger men.
Yeah, that's very true, man. It's funny because today I was talking to somebody about pretty much unlearning everything that we've learned. You know what I mean? And I found that as well, like in AZD's teachings, like to pretty much like tap back into your nature's code.
Yeah, man, totally. It feels a lot like, if I was like wrestling and I would lead with my right leg and always my attacks were with my right leg forward, it's almost like somehow having to shift and only ever use your left leg forward now. After like 8 years of learning it the other way, now you're a baseball player, but now you got to throw with your left hand and swing the bat the other way. You got to figure it out. And, somehow you'll have an advantage if you're a left-handed pitcher or whatever, or left-handed batter. If you're as good as the right hand, because you're seeing less than the other one. So they know they're less prepared for the other one, but you got to get real good. It's kind of like that for me. And
yeah, that's very interesting.
These chains, man, so many chains. Like what are some other like, it's an interesting concept and how you keep going back on it. Can you give me more of your mind about like, what do you mean by chains?
Chains, I would say, is like a perception, right? Because that's what I feel like is a chain. Like if somebody's brainwashed into a certain perception, like that's like your reality. You know what I mean? Like no matter how unreal it is or it is not, like that's your reality. You know what I mean? So I would say that's a chain until you're able to see, I want to say above that perception and see, okay, look, that's how I'm seeing it. And then you have like an open mind to pretty much see it many different angles, maybe. But I feel like I always go back to this example when I'm explaining this. It's like if you had like a sticky note on your back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it says like "kick me," when people used to put those on. And then you're walking everywhere, everybody's just kicking your ass all the time. You're like, what the fuck? Like, why is everybody kicking me? And then as soon as you know that there's something on your back, then you can take it off and like, oh shit, a whole fucking time I've been walking around with this stick, and you just throw it out. So that's how I feel like that's kind of like a little like analogy I could make for that. Yeah.
And it's very similar to what I think of when I say the behavior code, like the behavior of the genetic code is that the mind has been programmed by culture and the rulers, the overlords of the planet, has designed the culture to control our minds off of natural genetic behavior. And the deeper subconscious thoughts are just like deeper rooted chains in more invisible but heavier. It's like more dark matter almost. And, the discovery of those and the unlocking of those in the analogy would be words are keys to unlock your chains, the right communication. Like I was saying with Fernando earlier was AZD, let's say, he gave a great example in the Beast Camp. I noticed it anyway, that 2 hours later, he's lecturing for like 2 hours and he comes up with the solution to like the text. He didn't know how to reply to something. And that happens to anybody that like does like lecture. You'll talk yourself into state, or you'll somehow by talking about it, find the right solution of words. But that's real mental labor. Like it took 2 hours of lecture to get to that. That's like evolution. There's no way that I in not 2 hours could have come to that, or, whatever. Maybe if I'm smarter, I could get it in 15 minutes, but it still takes it's like a measure of experience, knowing the right thing to say. Experiences with time and labor. And it's not, everybody uses their time differently, so but it still will take some time. And, I forgot what we were saying about right before.
Yeah. I feel like that kind of relates with sales even, because, you have to like, because I've done sales for a long time now, but I remember like before, like I wouldn't even know what to say. Now, man, I'll call anybody. I'll give me a phone, give me a number, I'll call them. Like you know what I mean? I can conversate with them, find a way to see how I can influence them. You know what I mean? But that's exactly what you're saying. It takes experience to pretty much like come up with what to say, pretty much.
Yeah, for sure. Knowing where it's going, knowing how to lead, knowing the micro steps that makes it an easy decision and more voluntary. So they're more and more likely to refer people because the experience is remembered as pleasant and good. And for sure. And then, I think both are very important vehicles to discovery of the self, learning the skills, the ultimate skills of survival is selling, a product or service for just money exchange, and replication, which is like selling your life and lifestyle and character.
Yeah. That's obviously better, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a trip to think about because, it's wow. How does one sell your character? And these chains that they're suppressive chains so that we won't express our true inner character, and our character never gets expressed. We never practice our character. So when we do express it, we stumble, embarrass ourselves when we try something new.
Yeah, that's true, man. I always remember what AZD says when he says like, how is everybody like hating on you and telling you like what like, why are you changing when it's like your life is becoming better, right? Like it makes no sense. And it's like, it's the suppressive people that some people are not even aware of that are around them. You know what I mean? When you start doing good, and then like, it's like he says, like I always remember this as well. He's like, the people who are around you the most, they don't even like you. That's what he says. Like they don't want to see you become the person that you really are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the suppressive communication is so familiar to us that's part of the chains. The chains is how comfortable we are with suppressive communication from others, how normal it seems to us, and how much we are convinced we should be accepting it. That chain of that sort of thing. Being independent, like Jose Guerrero. He's one of the IMC monks. He made a video. I'm going to post it. It's a testimony. He was saying how in this last Beast Camp, he feels much more detached, especially from other people's opinions. And he said, I'm about to sell a bunch of stuff, get rid of some stuff. lighten up. And again, I forgot to lose the point of where I was saying. Really good. But
I'm gonna get out there again soon, man, to a beast camp. So
yeah, I'm thinking about New Year's. There's January 1st, 2nd, 3rd is that Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But should we just do like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday so that it's including New Year's Eve? Does that matter?
I've never really celebrated like holidays, to be real with you. So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if people do celebrate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? You celebrate or?
Well, I'm looking for whatever is most aligned with the most good with IMC Nation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The people that'll be attending. I think I have a great time. I'm at the base all the time. You see, I'm out there at 5 a.m. every morning looking up at the stars, lighting my incense, walking around to the trees.
Yeah.
Communing with the nature and saying my prayers for my brothers and guardians. I should start expanding that out to everybody. Really, now I'm awakening the power in me. So if you feel it around 6 or whatever time zone you're in tomorrow,
that's you.
I may reach out with my mental tentacles.
Man, I'm telling you, ever since I came back, and it's funny because before I would look up at those 3 stars, the Orion's belt. And then when I went to the beast, like I find out that this guy's always like looking up at the same one. I'm like, wow, that's so weird, like how it's connected. And I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah, man. And then I still look up and I'm looking for UFOs like over here. I'm like, what are the UFOs?
Man, I really have developed a sense of depth perception and a sense of like depth into the atmosphere, or really technically like out of the atmosphere. But like I'm starting to perceive, because what happened one day is these crows, Fernando pointed it out, these motherfucking crows, man. We're watching these crows. Did I tell this story before already? But
no.
Oh man, they were so high. They went, and the more I looked at them, Fernando's on right now, actually. The more I looked at them, the more I saw another one that was right behind it. And then as my eyes focused on that one, the more I'd see another one that was a little further, a little higher. They were following like this uprising of air. And by the end of it, I swear to God, it was like 1.5 kilometers in the air. It was so high up there, these crows. And then at the top, they spin up, they like coil up, and at the top, then they just like, they stop doing the uprising and they just go out and coast towards the mountains or whatever. Man.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, the nature, the depth. So since then, that's given me like a depth perception, because I was following all these birds. So 100 meters, 200 meters, 300 meters, like I'm getting a perspective. I mean, how tall is the atmosphere? At some point, it's so thin, can't even consider it atmosphere, but that's like 80 miles thick. They call that segment like whatever the fuck they call it. It's so thick, but it's like so thin. The atmosphere is only like, shit, man, 10, 15 miles thick. After that, it's pathetic. It's nothing,
Yeah, I always think about how, I don't know where I heard this. It might have been in one of the products, but where AZD mentions like there is no accidents in nature. Like, they all have like their movements. They all like serve a purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
That always trips me out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I notice that because then I'll see it, and I'm like, whoa. Like,
yeah, because I start looking for the reason, and then there's also a reason for her behavior. Talking of genetic behavior, there's a reason why everything is happening. Every gesture means something, but a lot of the thing about the human is that we imagine so much, so that she might be just reacting to her imagination about something, and you think it's something in the environment. Animals are more just like stimulus response. So, and then we have our own imagination about it that we might, so it gets really complicated by this thing that gets kicked off without us knowing about it. But the depth perception of the birds gave me a perception that in the morning sky, looking for UFOs is like, there's a depth to the atmosphere that I perceive more. As I think about it, it gets thinner. And then like, because the UFO, we don't know it's not like a flat screen. Like we don't know at what altitude it is,
right.
So looking different altitudes as well as, up and down, left and right is, anyway, it's part of what I do. And it's a really good, what I've experienced, or I think I'm experiencing, is a really good cleansing of the eye muscles and the eye nerves, because I'm focusing out and in, whereas I'm looking at a screen all day. So that morning, it's like almost like an eye exercise to like zoom out, zoom in through the air while I look for UFOs, right? And I see them.
Yeah. Are you still spotting them out there?
I saw this one the other day that I swear it like went like this. It was way high up, not blinking, and it was moving pretty fast. And I saw it go vroom, vroom, like in a way that was because the only object it could have been was a satellite. So for it to do that, I don't think it could have been a satellite just orbiting whatever. You
You
know,
know,
I've made a distinction for myself that the UFO, it's not officially like what we would call an unidentified flying object. All it is an unidentifiable flying object. To me, it's unidentifiable, but it's not unidentified. I can't speak for everybody. Somebody maybe has identified it. If nobody can identify it, then it's an unidentified flying object. That's the distinction I'm making because I don't know. But these things that are moving that are not blinking, I'm always wondering what the fuck is this thing that's so high up, moving like a plane, but not blinking like a plane, sometimes moving faster, sometimes brighter and too high. And it's like, just don't know, you know?
yeah,
So
yeah, that's very true.
I think it's cleansing my third eye too to do it.
Is it?
And combined with just the morning ritual of walking the yard and, communing with the different energies. I
You
think,
know, it's funny because I always think about like I think the more that it's like you said, the society will pretty much make us steer away from all natural instinct, right? All natural behavior. I
yeah.
feel like the more that you tap into that, the more that the third eye is even activated.
Yeah, I agree. I think definitely relationships are third eye activating when done right. I think basically living is third eye activating when done right. That's what the conditioning, the chains are pulled us off of living right. That's a better way to say it because when I say like live naturally, it sounds savage. I don't mean like savage. I mean just like a real in harmony with nature, not in harmony with what they're telling you nature is. It can't draw a picture for you and say this is a tree. It's not a tree. It's a
Right.
picture of a tree. You can't tell me what nature is.
What's your input on this? Because I thought about this the other day. I'm like, man, like I wonder like if anyone will ever know the right answer. But for example, you know how we're pretty much speaking on like behaving in a way that's very natural. But obviously, if you're going to behave that way, you have to live that way, right? But it's like, how can you do that in a society that's built in a way that's unnatural, right? Like,
Well,
you know what I mean?
the first thing that comes to mind when you say it like that is that the experience of living is in your mind. So who's to say if someone's living naturally from like if I'm to say you're not living naturally or you're not living naturally, maybe there are some things I could identify, but there are other things that I couldn't. When it comes to like behavior, that's going to just come down to our philosophies on life and our logic of how we think people should behave. And in that case, the results should be speaking, which could be the transformation if you're changing a lot, and but it could also be like the results. Like AZD has these results with women, and it's not using money to get these women, and so there's something there. And upon 5.5 years of deep examination, I have found just more and more riches of the mind and communication and pretty soon you'll see my results. And that's just a fact. It's happening. And I'm making it happen consciously because I know that's part of the lineage and this needs to be displayed. It's almost as if I feel as if there was a yogi that he completed 7 years. This is my lineage. He's the guy that taught me.
Right.
He was in the Himalayas for 7 years in his 20s and he finished, and at the end is when they paid the guru. And so he's about to leave the guy that lives in a cave on Mount Kailash in fucking northern India. And the guy says, no, don't pay me any money. Go and take a wife and live a normal life and teach yoga to the commoners. Because it was like year 1920 or so. So it's different society in India then. And so that's what he did. He literally went and took a wife just because that was his job to take a wife. And I feel like I don't really want to like take care of a bunch of women, but I think it's just going to have to happen. Like maybe 300 women, like kind of sanctuary, you could say, like a temple, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's developing. Could be
Yeah.
split among multiple temples. Who knows, really? I'm just speaking it out loud. Even right now, I feel the reverberations through space. Some things are being readjusted and realigned just to these words. You know, Trent Lara, for example, is duplicating what I just said, and it's giving my vision more mass. It's beginning to matter more. So the more we look at, you know, women's temple, the guy's temple too. Who knows? So man, I wanted to end it on a note. There was a note there, but you know, so yeah, actually, really, when it comes to the New Year's event, I mean, it's really more about like, you know, what would people want to come to? There's Christmas that's happening right before. There's do we do it in the middle of the week? Do any of the guys care? Do we do it afterwards, like the next weekend? People got business and things that they're doing. What to select? I think I'll just, you know, refer with Arash and we'll talk about it. And that's when it'll be. It's going to be real exciting. I think Pyro is coming in January, the January one. So if anybody wants like a promo video of themselves made, because he makes these dope videos. I have two. I have a shorter one that's real good from Beast Camp, and I have a longer one of me doing yoga on Tampa Bay. And so those two are really nice pieces to send to convey who you are, and he'll do it right. So that's January. I know February, Jason Bayot is coming from Hawaii. So he's a professional martial arts actor and, you know, real high level guy. He's been around for a while. And he's going to do residency also before and after. So he'll be here for 2 weeks. And so if you guys want to, you know, bunk up with Jason Bayot, that's when he'll be here. And share this, subscribe if you catch it on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. And any closing words, Chris Cruz, you can find him on Instagram, MF Chris Cruz. Yeah. Anything that was on top of mind?
That's it, brother. I would just say I'll see you on the at the next one, man, the Beast Camp.
Oh man.
Dude.
Yeah. Everything's gonna be improved, dude. It's getting the weather here in the morning, the energies are shifting. Like we're like a lighthouse to the different dimensions.
Really?
Yeah, dude. We're like that.
I've been trying to go, man. Because you know what's funny? When I went to because like the times that I seen AZD for the first time was that in LA, and then they were nothing like going to San Jose. You know what I mean? It's like it's not even the same person. That's what I'm saying. It's so weird, man.
Yeah, man.
The experience is very different.
And it used to be, and I want to release these recordings. I might do it as a bonus. I was telling Fernando that I was either thinking about doing like a best of behind the scenes and grabbing the best of the behind the scenes from the previous 4 months. Or I was going to add these recordings from, you know, like in LA going down to the Dream Hotel or the W or something, or the Roosevelt, and his roundtable conversations around there. I have like 8 of these 90-minute recordings. And man, they're hypnotic with the music behind you, but we're in a different environment than the base. And sometimes there's a girl there, sometimes there's not, but it was always just like such a fantasy and such a story, such a teaching embedded in the teaching, like the delivery. It was like a teaching in delivery. I was thinking about adding that maybe as like a bonus for that could be it. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for showing up, Chris, and we'll see everybody next time. All right.
Yeah. Thank you, bro. Oh, all right, bro.
See you in Jan.